Hello again, everyone. This is Jill Hobson, and we are about to get started with today's webinar, Closing the Skills Gap with Idaho Digital Learning's Digital Badging Program. We're glad you've joined, and we're excited to have phenomenal speakers with us today. So before we get started, let me introduce myself. I'm Jill Hobson, a K-12 Program Manager with IMS Global, and with me today is Karen Daugherty. She's a K-12 Institutional Program Manager as well. You may see that her name is listed as Kara Jenkins if you're looking at the folks who are involved. Through a technical glitch, she's logged in with Kara's name. Please be reminded that your audio is muted and will remain muted throughout today's webinar. Please submit questions through the Q&A feature, and Karen and I will pose the questions to our speakers as time allows. Today's webinar is provided to give insight into how IMS Global Standards can help you evolve your digital ecosystem. Looking at the larger picture, we understand you have a lot of different systems in your district, and it's often difficult to make those systems work together. Our vision is that by getting involved with IMS Global, you'll discover ways in which your digital systems can all work together to meet your district's needs. And just like the speakers with us today, you too will start to see your digital ecosystem evolve. One of the ways IMS helps our K-12 districts is through our Digital Learning Revolution program. This program is built to meet the needs of districts where they are. Whether you're just finding out about IMS and making a commitment to buy and ask for certified products, or if you're implementing badges as Idaho Digital Learning is today. Our K-12 program enables both a straightforward evolution to digital and provides the foundation for making significant and revolutionary advancements in teaching and learning. I'm delighted today to introduce our speakers from Idaho Digital Learning. We have Bret Morgan and Sherawn Reberry with us today, and we look forward to hearing more about how Idaho Digital Learning has made a great improvement in what they're doing around digital badging. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Sherawn.
Thank you so much. We truly appreciate you asking us here today and to share what we have been up to in Idaho. So with that, we'll get started. So we want to talk today about SkillStack, which is, we'll make it a brief explanation of Idaho's career technical education, a micro-credentialing platform. And so as we begin, we just wanted to give you a little background on IDLA and how we came to work with our CTE partners on SkillStack. So IDLA is Idaho's state virtual school. We're written into our state code as the virtual school for Idaho. So we're not our own school, but we work in partnership with Idaho's public and charter schools, as well as state entities and other partners that work throughout the state. So we are a capacity builder. We work with districts to provide opportunities for students in courses as well as professional development for educators. We have students taking courses from us for a variety of reasons, as well as adults looking to take professional development in a variety of modalities as well. We also act as a change agent. We help to drive technology and education throughout Idaho and continue to power solutions that bring Idaho students and educators into the 21st century education. We also advocate for public schools throughout Idaho. We don't just focus on what is best for technology, but we focus on what is best for students and educators overall. And we always focus on what is best for the education throughout the state. And then finally, we are a service provider, providing courses, professional development. Other services include our college and career math readiness that we utilize, EdReady. We have an e-tutoring program that we use with our students, as well as work with other state partners, as mentioned earlier. And so this next slide gives you a quick overview of just some of our different partnerships that we have throughout Idaho as well as throughout the nation. And we feel very, very fortunate to be able to work with so many great partners. So that leads me to talk about our partnership with our career and technical education group here in Idaho. So we started a great partnership a few years ago with CTE, talking about micro-credentialing, which eventually led us to the conversation of SkillStack. And so we have worked hand in hand with our division of CTE to develop the micro-credentialing program that you are going to see here today. And that led us to an additional partnership with CTE called CTE Digital, where we are putting foundational CTE courses online in partnership with the division in order to help provide additional opportunities for students throughout the state, should they not be able to access CTE programs in their school districts. And so with that, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Bret, and he will talk through all of the steps that got us to where we are today. So Bret?
Superhero needs a good origin story. And so that's where we're going to start. We're going to start with how SkillStack came to be. So it all started with CTE, our Career and Technical Education Department in the state of Idaho. They needed a better way to track student abilities, and they wanted to better facilitate post-secondary articulation, where student skills and the things they were learning could turn into college credit. They had a system that they were using, but it was pretty cumbersome, and it was divided into regions. So there was different regions in the system, and students couldn't move from one region to another, and admins had to have multiple logins so that they could log into the different regions so that they could see students, and they couldn't run reports for students across multiple regions. It was kind of a mess. In addition to that, the method they were using was largely focused on grades and grade books, and not allowing them to focus as much on skills as they wanted to. And it had the ability for teachers to kind of override rules and give hard yes and no's on students without any real evidence to back up those decisions. And they were having a hard time vetting those decisions and knowing for sure if the right decision was made. So that led them to a vision of creating a more skill-centric learning platform, driving the education off of skills instead of off of grades. They presented the vision in a grant application, and the Department of Labor's Employment Training Administration gave them money. They gave them a grant. And so now they had the money, but they still had no real idea on how to move forward with the implementation. And that's where Ideal 8 came in, and their crackerjack programmer. Just a little humble brag there. No, so that's where we started to provide them with the programming they needed to be able to develop an implementation. So now we have a vision. We have an implementation team. So now what? So this is where I stepped in, and we had lots of meetings about what their vision really was, what they were hoping to accomplish. Badges was the core concept that we wanted to move forward with. Obviously, I don't need to go into badging with this group. That's part of what we're all here to talk about. So we did a lot of research early on into badging and how to implement badging. We looked at platforms like Credly. We looked at the then Mozilla Open Badge Initiative. So this was several years ago, before IMS really got involved in the badging initiative. And then we did some gap analysis on the platforms that were out there and what we were hoping to accomplish, and whether or not existing platforms could help us accomplish that, or what was missing and what we needed to do. We met with some other people that were implementing badges for game-based learning and that sort of thing in Idaho, and we decided that we wanted our own platform so that we had the flexibility to really do what we needed to do and to make badging for education in Idaho mean what we wanted it to mean. And thus SkillStack was born. So some of the reasons we went with our own platform, we wanted to be able to customize how badges were earned, how badges were displayed, how people interacted with badges. We wanted the ability, a concept that SkillStack has that is somewhat rare in the badging community as a whole, is the ability for badges to stack up. And what we mean by that is that we wanted the ability for a learner to earn multiple badges that then rolled into a larger badge. And this was kind of how we envisioned some of that articulation that we talked about earlier. So a student could earn an introductory welding badge and a welding safety badge and a welding concept badge, and those would all roll into a higher level welding understanding badge and those types of concepts. We also wanted the ability to kind of customize how complicated or simple the skills were going to be. And again, the concept of defining what badging means in Idaho, there was a lot of badging that was fluff badges, is what we kind of felt at the time, where it was, hey, you showed up to class, or hey, you have a good attitude, or hey, you completed this welcome module, let's give you a badge for all of those things. And that's not what we wanted badges to be on this platform. We really want the badges to be micro certifications and real world skills that are applicable to future education and future jobs. And so that's why SkillStack and why we really went with our own platform. But there were roadblocks and issues or difficulties we had to overcome early on with the badges. So originally we went with a lot of skills and a lot of badges because we wanted the system to really reward knowledge and really show in a detailed way what students were doing, what learners were doing. But what we found is that we went a little too overboard, and it made the system a little hard to maintain, and it made the educators, the people awarding the skills, it increased their workload by too much. So we cut back. We discovered that we needed to cut back on that vision and not do every single detail, but do higher level badges. We also had to overcome the hurdle of, instead of adding work to teachers, making it easier for teachers. And that's always an issue with this kind of thing, is getting the teachers on board and helping reduce their workload instead of increase their workload, which meant training teachers. And there's always, there's a lot of teachers that we want to be using the system. So training is always one of those hurdles that have to be overcome. Translating the standards into badges and creating the actual badges and having the badges be meaningful is something, it's another one of those difficulties or struggles that we faced all along the way. and generating and maintaining excitement. As you can imagine, a new platform can be really exciting, but it can also be daunting, and it's hard to change the momentum of the education industry the way that it is. And that's exactly what we're trying to do with SkillStack, is change the focus and the direction of these things. So that led to the evolution. So obviously we're going from a core idea and an original implementation, but things that don't evolve can never really be a viable thing. So SkillStack also had to evolve. So the original focus of SkillStack was for secondary ed. And again, to prepare students for post-secondary. But as we started to implement SkillStack, the post-secondary institutions in the state of Idaho were also looking for their own badging solutions, and it made sense for us to team up and pair together. And so we contracted with each of the state institutions in Idaho, and we branded SkillStack for each of them. So it's a uniform platform, but each institution has their own face and can have their own badges and their own teachers and approvers working in the system, which has been great. We have several institutions that have really charged forward and are leading the way in our SkillStack implementation, and it has been awesome to work with them and to see how they have caught the vision and are moving forward with SkillStack and with badging. So here is a chart of kind of how we've grown. So SkillStack kind of went live in 2016, but as you can see, it was pretty low implementation. We were just getting our gears running and getting things going. We didn't have a lot of badges early on. We didn't have a lot of users, but you can see that we've shown some real growth. We're up to almost over 400 badges now. We've got, in 2018, we had almost 2,000 unique badge earners, and we awarded up to the end of 2018, we've awarded over 10,000 badges. And we're just continuing to grow and continuing to adapt, and it's just been exciting to see the growth and the adoption. Just one of those things that it's just wonderful to see that and watch it grow. As we continue to grow, we're continuing to reassess and continuing to change our focus. We're trying to reduce the number of badges that are being created so that we can increase the adoption in more areas. So we've had to limit what areas we were creating badges because of resources and the time it takes to get all of these onboarded and get the teachers trained on the badges and get them trained on how to approve. So we're trying to reduce the number of badges and reduce, again, what the focus is on those badges, so that we can get things moving faster and get more people on board and get more momentum moving forward. So in order to facilitate that, we're changing our focus so that badges are really for capstone courses. So instead of all the way along for every little thing, it'll be more like high level, really applicable skills and courses at the end of a education path instead of at the beginning. We're also focusing badges on technical skills assessments. There in Idaho, we don't have a really great system for tracking. So every student that completes a program in Idaho, a CTE program, has to take a technical skills assessment test. But there's not really great tracking and visibility when a student does complete those. And so badging became a great methodology for tracking those, for showing those off, so that learners could show those to potential employers, to potential institutions that they want to attend, and we're also, again, still really focused on the articulation side of it, getting kids moving forward with their education and not just stopping once they're done with high school. So some of the visions that we have for the future is really to make the badging platform the driver of the education instead of a secondary thing. So as we get the skills and the technical competencies and the micro-certifications built out, teachers can teach to those skills instead of applying those skills to what they're teaching. And hopefully get to the point where these are their lesson plans and making it easier for them to do those things rather than just one more thing they have to do. Another vision is to make grades based on badges instead of badges based on grades, so that a student goes through, and if they earn all of these skills and all of these badges, that means, you know, that they have the technical competency. We can't get rid of grades altogether yet. They're too ingrained in our education industry. But we can, instead of driving badges off of grades, we can drive grades off of badges. The goal is to cover all of the CTE learning in the state of Idaho with badges. Again, right now we have a small slice of that pie, but it grows bigger every day. And we want to partner with members of industry, not only to show members of industry what these learners have been doing, but also get them on board for their own in-house training and their own professional development and their own career technical education, and get them using the badging system as well. And therefore expand to other branches of education in the state of Idaho. And that's kind of, in a whirlwind tour, in a nutshell, what SkillStack is and what the vision is and how it's moving forward. We're going to open it up to any questions that anybody has at this time, and we'll answer those to the best of our ability.
Well, thank you, Bret and Sherawn, both for sharing the work that you've been doing. And I'm going to stop and ask Karen if we have any questions at this time.
Thank you, Jill, and thank you, Sherawn. And I'm so sorry for you guys for sharing. I have had a question come in privately to me, and I am not sure which one of you guys want to take this, but Bret and Sherawn, the question is, what level of effort was needed or is needed to assess the learner's mastery? You know, as we start to look at the evidence needed to award a badge, what level of effort was needed to align those or to assess the mastery before awarding those badges?
You know, that's a great question, and I know that what we have done and what CTE has done, as we talked about, they have been very aligned to industry and post-secondary. So there has been a lot of effort that has gone into what we're calling horizontal and vertical alignment between it's kind of like a triangulation between secondary, so the high schools, post-secondary, and also industry. So they have been bringing in, and people have been at the table in regards to each of those content areas or parts and pieces for those badges to be awarded at the table together, looking at what would be needed to assess a learner in order for mastery, so that if I gave the badge or Bret gave the badge or Karen, you gave the badge, we would all be looking at it from the same viewpoint. So, sorry, Bret, did you want to add anything there?
I just wanted to add that the system is very skill focused. So a badge is made up of a set of skills. And so one of the ways that we try to make it, so what Sherawn is saying is, the difficulty and how we're overcoming the difficulty in defining what those skills are, and how those skills are assessed. But the goal is to make those skills through these definitions very clear and very consistent, so that when those skills are awarded, they have meaning. And then one of the things that we do is no one awards a badge in our system. They only approve skills. And so when somebody has completed all of the skills necessary, the system automatically awards that badge. So that goes back to that. If they're doing the skills and they've shown mastery on the little skills, then they've shown mastery, and all of the skills, then they've shown mastery for the badge itself.
Wonderful. Thank you, Bret. And we have a couple more questions that have come in. One of those was, are you able to show an example of a badge that has been issued? And then along those same lines, somebody also asked if you have a visual representation of how those badges are stacked. So maybe while we are bringing in the next question here, Bret, maybe you can take a moment to stop sharing the presentation and share your live screen if you are able to talk a little bit about how the badges are stacked and show a visual representation of an example of those badges.
I would love to do that.
Wonderful. And then as he's getting that ready, another question that came in was, you just talked about, nobody really is responsible for issuing the badge or approving those. Where do you approve those skills now? Is there a case server involved?
There is not a case server involved right now. That is one of our long-term goals, is to, as we're developing all of these standards, to get them aligned in case, and then have the badges align with that and get some automation behind that and those kinds of things. But right now the focus is much more on getting all of those standards defined, and the long-term integration goals is where we want to go from there. I am unsure how to change my sharing from the slide to a shared screen. Can you give me quick direction on how to do that?
Bret,
Absolutely.
Down the
Go ahead,
menus and look for the word share as a menu option, and then you should be able to choose my screen.
Gotcha. Awesome. Thank you. All right. I am now sharing my screen. Can you guys see the SkillStack webpage?
Yes.
Perfect. Okay, so this is the landing page for SkillStack. And I'm going to go ahead. Most of the questions that were asked revolved around the badges themselves, so I just want to show you kind of that interface. So this is career technical education, and that is broken down into categories and subcategories nationally. And so they have clusters, which are these large level content areas. And inside each cluster, there are pathways, and those pathways lead to specialties. And then for us, inside those specialties, that's where we have the badges. So in this agribusiness, you can see that we currently have 5 main badges and then 1 stacked badge. And you can see you can see the graphic that it shows looks like a stack of badges, and when you hover over it, it expands out to show you each of the badges that make up that stacked badge. And you can click on a badge, you can see more details, a description of it. You can see the skills necessary. In this case, it's made up of several other badges as well as a couple of other skills required. Because of the sharing with other institutions and industries, we have the ability to list places where you can earn these badges. This one is for secondary ed, so it's earned at secondary ed. That's why there wasn't a list of other institutions. If I click on an actual badge, you can see, again, the list of skills required to earn that badge. So that's how the stack badges are represented in the system itself. And as you can see, we do have a lot of badges, and like I said, it's growing every day. Does that answer the question? Was there more that people would like to see since we're in the system and sharing the screen?
We're not seeing other questions around that, just lots of thank yous. This is great to see. Thank you for sharing that. And before we move on, go ahead.
Oh, no, go ahead. I just saw that somebody was asking, what do recipients see? And so we have so recipients can see the badges that they're working on. Let me see. Again, this is a demo system, so I'm going to log in as me and see if I can show that side of it. Yeah, so you can, a recipient can see badges that they've started working on and see what they still have left to complete. So this shows that I've earned 3 of 5 badges or skills to earn this badge. This one shows that I've earned this badge completely. This shows a stack and what parts of the badge I've earned and what parts I haven't. And along the lines of moving down the pathway, they have the ability to go to a recommended badges screen that shows them the rest of the badges in the specialties they've already worked on and kind of what to work on next ideas. So that's again for the student view of the system. So somebody else asked, is there standard courseware associated with the badge? So that goes to that horizontal and vertical alignment that Sherawn was talking about. Yes, all of the standards will be driven by what is expected to be accomplished in order to complete a pathway for a student. And we're trying to drive lesson plans and coursework around those standards.
Thank you to the audience for these questions. They are great. And thank you to Bret for your willingness to grab those, answer those quickly, and show us that live example. Thank you, Sherawn, for your contribution to this as well. Before we let you go, we have a couple other questions that we were able to answer to participants privately, but one that I think is very beneficial for all to hear. Going back just a little bit, you had mentioned that you guys were moving towards having grades based on badges. Wanted to hear a little bit more about this. The question is, because you guys are trying to move towards having grades based on badges, will you start requiring that badges will be included on transcripts? So, kind of looking to the next step, looking to the future, looking at where these badges can take us. The question comes in, are you going to start requiring that badges be included on transcripts? And Sherawn, that may be one for you, or if Bret is able to answer that.
Yeah, I'll jump in, and then Bret, feel free to add to my comment. So, oh, I'm sorry. That doesn't. Okay. Thank you. So I think this is a question and a conversation that is being readily had not only in Idaho but across the nation as it becomes apparent if do badges go on transcripts, or is it the competencies that go on that? And so I don't know that we have decided anything yet here in Idaho, but I do know that these are currently higher level conversations that are taking place between different organizations. I don't know that we have an answer yet to be able to say yes or no, that they'd be included, but I do know that the conversations are taking place.
Wonderful. And with you guys having so many partners in this journey, I know that it's a decision that will bring everybody together to the table for that conversation. Jill, I think that covers it for the questions that have come in through the chat. I think at this time we can turn it back over to you.
Okay, great. You can pass me the ball. Yeah. So as we are wrapping up, a few items for you to keep in mind. One is to take a look at the many resources that we have available at imsglobal.org/K12. You'll find information on our K-12 program, our end user groups that meet monthly, and our K-12 playbook of resources. The playbook has valuable and easy to use reference and resource center for K-12 administration and digital curriculum teams and IT leaders who are working on implementing interoperability standards. We also would recommend that you consider scheduling a meeting with us by sending an email to info@imsglobal.org. We'll be glad to help your institution define a strategy and a plan and processes for migrating to your interoperable ecosystem. And then we also want to encourage you to definitely get involved in IMS so that together we can advance our community of leadership and continue moving forward to make new things possible. And that might involve attending our Learning Impact Leadership Institute in May. The Learning Impact Leadership Institute will take place in San Diego, California, the 20th through 23rd of May. Early bird registration will end at the end of this month, so we encourage you to think about going ahead and getting registered right now. You'll be able to have an opportunity to learn more about what's going on with digital credentials, as well as 9 other tracks of content going on throughout the conference. So we hope you'll be able to join us. And with that, we want to thank all of our attendees today for coming, and a special thanks to our speakers today, Bret and Sherawn. We really appreciate you sharing your experiences and knowledge with all of us. Have a great day.